The Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote, and other government ministers have examined the evolution of the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon, barrier measures at the airports, and the contribution of traditional medicine. The National Commission for Scrutiny of Files from Private Media Organs started work today as the state disburses over 240 million CFA francs as support to these private media houses. 2 suspected dealers in human body parts have been arrested by gendarmerie officials in FOUMBAN in the west region of the country. And those are top stories. Good evening and thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News in Yaoundé with me, Gladys Tata.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Members of the National Assembly have been drilled on the need to promote local groups working towards finding solutions to the coronavirus pandemic. They were also part of a training on the use of new information and communication technologies in their parliamentary work. Meanwhile, the Beijing platform CEMAC held deliberations with female lawmakers on economic justice and women's rights. Esther Kima has details of today's agenda at the National Assembly.
The number of COVID-19 infections in the country keeps rising, and to flatten the curve, local solutions must be sought. The senior Deputy Speaker, Honorable Ilariong Etong, admits that financing and technical aid to enterprises is crucial.
We are recommending that the government should do more. If Cameroonians can come up with the idea that we see that it can be helpful to the population, our duty is to stand by them.
With the know-how exhibited, the legislators are impressed.
As a group, we see that we can use them to sensitize and make our population come to understand that they themselves can be a solution to this problem.
Conscious of their grueling task to control government action, Deputy Speaker Honorable Kombogberi enjoined the lawmakers to avail themselves of the new information and communication technologies during the training initiated by Repatix President Honorable Julien Barra, considered as teaching time that saves 9.
The Minister of Finance provides tablets to all MPs in which you'll find the state budget. It is only through this knowledge that they'll be able to go through the state budget and examine it and know exactly how to pose questions to the Minister of Finance.
For female parliamentarians to participate fully as a skilled and effective team to empower women as elements of change, Deputy Speaker Honorable Theophile Bauro commended the exchange with the Beijing platform CEMAC.
It is going to build the capacity of the women who sometimes shy away from leadership. The women will be prepared to contribute positively during deliberations in the National Assembly.
We hope that the female parliamentarians are going to take active role in one of the Action Coalition team. By 2025, we should be talking about a significant reduction in ending gender-based violence.
With the support of government and UN Women, the female lawmakers can adequately address the Beijing 12 critical areas, which begin with stamping out violence.
And on to this lead story, Prime Minister Joseph John Gote has today presided over the weekly interministerial meeting to monitor the riposte strategy against the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Attended by members of cabinet and some senior officials of the state, the meeting, which held via video conferencing, examined the evolution of the pandemic, measures put in place at the country's airport, as well as the contribution of traditional medicine in the campaign against COVID-19. The repatriation of Cameroonians and EU decision preventing the arrival of travelers from Cameroon also came under scrutiny, as Star Building correspondent Christian Che Atam tells us in the following report.
This Wednesday's interministerial meeting started with the presentation of the latest statistics of COVID-19 infection in Cameroon. The Minister of Public Health revealed that 13,711 positive cases have been recorded, with 11,014 of them declared healed against 328 deaths. Manauda Malachi said specialized teams have been stationed at entry points of air, land and sea boundaries to enforce surveillance against the virus. Concerning ongoing efforts to establish a travel protocol in view of the future resumption of international flights, the Minister of Transport said a document has been drawn up to codify rules to be respected by arriving and departing air passengers. Speaking on the EU decision excluding Cameroonian travelers from their space, Jean-Ernest Mazenang-Galebi-Behe, Minister of Transport, said Cameroon currently respects all EU demands and called for an appeal to the EU for Cameroon's situation to be reviewed. The use of herbal treatment against the COVID-19 pandemic also came under focus during the virtual meeting. Scientific Research Minister Madeleine Twente revealed that about 100 herbal solutions have been identified in the country and are under detailed examination by experts of her ministry. Talking on the process to repatriate Cameroonians blocked in foreign countries, the Minister of External Relations, Login Belambela, said 2,085 Cameroonians had been flown in by the 30th of June. He announced the imminent arrival of 863 others, beginning this Wednesday with 162 Cameroonians from Niger. Prime Minister Joseph Dion-Gouté has instructed the Minister of Public Health to intensify surveillance at the country's air, land and sea borders. Joseph Dion-Gouté has instructed the Minister of Scientific Research to examine the herbal solutions on offer in Cameroon in view of exploiting the most pertinent in the treatment of patients. He also invited members of government to each, at their different levels, enforce decisions taken on the 17th of March, which still remain applicable.
The Minister of National Defense of Equatorial Guinea, Leandro Bekale Congo, has left Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, at the end of a 3-day working visit. He was sent off at the Yaoundé Simalen International Airport by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency of the Republic in charge of Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo. And during his stay in the country, he held a working visit with the Minister, as you tell us, Ebenezer Akanga, in the following report.
Cameroon's Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo, and the Minister of National Defense of Equatorial Guinea, Leandro Bekale Congo, arrived at the Yaoundé Simalen International Airport together. Joseph Betty Asomo handed a souvenir photo album to his Equatorial Guinean counterpart. During his visit to Yaoundé, the Minister of National Defense of Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon's Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense held a high-level meeting on security along the common border of the two countries. In the communique that sanctioned the meeting, the two parties agreed, among others, to ensure that people on both sides of the border live in harmony and for defense forces of the two countries to collaborate so as to avert attacks from external forces.
I am very satisfied with the outcome of the visit. We arrived at important decisions in our high-level meeting which will enable our people along our common border to live in harmony. The resolutions of our meeting will be forwarded to our heads of state for validation. What we have to continue to do under the leadership of our heads of state is to consolidate the achievements of this historic meeting.
So the visit of the Minister of National Defense of Equatorial Guinea to Cameroon has been used to clear the dark cloud on the skies of the two countries.
100 private media organs are underway in Yaoundé for institutional support worth 240 million CFA francs. Headed by the Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, the National Commission for the Scrutiny of Application Files also presented some changes aimed at rendering government support more transparent and effective. Cynthia Saptala tells us more.
There were 100 application files from private news media that were under scrutiny for government support worth 240 million CFA francs. During this Wednesday's National Commission session for the 2019 financial year, the Minister of Communication talked of some reforms made to increase government's assistance to the press qualitatively by notably redefining assistance to the written press and online media.
These reforms aim to render the government's support for the private press sector more effective, taking into account the other mechanisms provided for in the legislation in force in order to avoid duplication.
The minister also called for the emergence of a quality private press responsible and respectful of professional ethics.
For instance, they will have to be strongly involved in the work of cleaning up their profession by getting mobilized for the implementation of self-regulation mechanisms that will have to coexist harmoniously with the National Communication Council, currently in charge of regulating the sector.
Out of the 100 files under review, 92 are from the print media and 8 are news outlets online.
And publishers are hopeful the meeting between advertisement actors and ministry officials could bear fruits to the newspaper publishing sector, a sector they say is surviving thanks to other sources of income, given that adverts are hard to find, and even when they do come, the broker, who is the advertisement agency, takes a lofty 30% of the amount. Beatrice Ngum spoke to some publishers on the tips they have adopted to keep the supply afloat. Beatrice?
This is Yaoundé on a busy Wednesday. As usual, newspapers are on the stands. Readers satisfy their curiosity in a context where publishers toil hard to continue supply as the fuel in newspaper production is limited.
Without advertisement, you can't sustain a newspaper. And more to that, though the brokers, they come and impose a percentage that is out of control. They will ask for 30%.
With the scarcity of adverts, publishers have devised other tips if they must continue to hit the kiosk.
In the case of Emergence, to be honest, the sales are very low. No advertisement. Online subscription doesn't work anymore. I'm still in the stands because I use my personal income to run the paper. I'm a bit fortunate that I own a printing press.
Divert from the conventional articles and concentrate on human interest stories. You do this, you are likely to sell.
Conscience peddling is also used by some, even though professional publishers decried the Hilton Press.
That is very, very unprofessional. It's rather unfortunate that it's a reality in Cameroon that people pay to blackmail others. You know, it comes from the top of the public. But we are trained journalists, so there are certain things that we cannot do.
Adverts are a problem in the newspaper publishing sector, publishers say, but equally think more assistance from government can change the trend.
The press reflects the nature of the country.
Running a printing press and a publishing house, plus tapping income from other sources, most publishers are unanimous, is what keeps their papers alive.
The first 6 months of 2020 have been less than 20% execution rate for projects funded by the public investment budget, a far cry from double that performance by the same period in 2019. The situation blamed on COVID-19 has led to projects being suspended or altogether scrapped. Clarice Aritakan explains.
The execution of the 2020 public investment budget is unfolding as Cameroon wraps up the 3-year economic and financial program with the IMF. From almost 1,500 billion CFA francs, budgetary constraints spilling over from the effects of COVID-19 have seen 2020 funds for public projects drop to 1,256 billion CFA francs. 6 months into the year, barely 20% of works have been carried out nationwide. A far cry from what obtained during the same period in 2019, according to sources from the Ministry of Economy. A performance short of development objectives outlined at the start of 2020, amongst them making first-generation structures go operational and a follow-up on investments made into the 3-year emergency plan. COVID-19 has defined the fate of a number of projects. Depending on their nature and intended output, they have either been put on hold, postponed, or scrapped. Priority will be given to activities which can enable the state effectively check the spread of the coronavirus. At the same time, focus will be on ensuring that the social fabric is preserved and that growth, even though projected to stall, should stay achievable. While some state-executed works are in the early stages, others have stayed on paper, with contractors and project owners alike explaining that safety comes first. This is yet to be totally guaranteed due to the COVID-19 threat, they agree. The challenge will thus be to get back to work in the second semester of the year in a bid to continue and push through with what can still be. Projects related to infrastructure and production make up the bulk of those to be executed with state funds. With the prevailing social atmosphere, though, analysts insist only commitment and hard work will get something done.
In the Ministry of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, discipline, hard work and result orientation as guiding principles to optimize the execution of the public investment budget. Evaluating the first semester of the year, officials of the ministry say many projects have been abandoned and others poorly executed due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other factors. Ewane Pole has more.
Officials of the Ministry of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, MINEPAT, hold that arming vote holders with knowledge on the new budget is one way of ensuring the effective execution of the 2020 public investment budget that has witnessed a drop due to the adverse effects of the coronavirus pandemic.
The rate of the execution of the budget is very low. Some contractors have not the capacity. Some projects are abandoned.
To improve the rate of execution of projects earmarked for 2020, Minister Lamin Usman May has instructed the Minipat Control Brigade to intensify their work on the field.
The minister authorized us to go on field, namely the control unit and even our colleagues in the follow-up of budget execution from this month till the end of the year.
200 billion have been subtracted from the investment budget. This has resulted from the cancelling of those projects from this budget.
Particular emphasis is placed on supporting decentralized local authorities in order to apply the new budgeting method for resources transferred to municipal councils.
The Association of Cameroon Business Women, GFAC, will soon train aspiring female entrepreneurs on techniques to create and manage their own companies. This was announced by the national president of the association, Agnes Ntubendo Denjok, during their mid-year evaluation meeting here in Yaoundé. Romeo Kenyi has more.
A mid-year evaluation meeting of the Association of Cameroon Business Women, GFAC, presided over by its national president, Senator Ndube Agnes Njok. She used the moment to hail members' contribution in the gross domestic product of Cameroon via their different business activities. She equally saluted the sense of responsibility of members in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Not all the women are here because we decided to respect the measures of COVID-19. But we made sure that at least about 7 women came from every region. You saw us continue to make our njangi, to share it to 3 women so that they should continue their activities and keep paying their taxes, because if we don't pay our taxes, the economy will cripple.
During the sittings, the regional president presented their report while indicating their different activities that will be carried out during this period. They also nurtured ideas to create small loan schemes so as to boost small business units and startups. After frowning at the non-payment of annual dues by some members, the national president of GFAC announced that a project to train young girls on how to manage their own enterprises and the training of some young Cameroonians in different domains will soon be carried out by the association.
The effervescence that usually characterizes the traditional July 1 Epaulet Awards in the military was absent this year, but the importance of the promotion in ranks is a memorable event in the career profile of the men and women in uniform that cannot go unnoticed. Symbolic Epaulet Awards and encouragements from hierarchy in the National Gendarmerie was marked by a ceremony that took place today in Yaoundé at the Secretariat of State in charge of the National Gendarmerie, followed by restricted relays in the different services across the country. Kilandan Difon reports on the ceremony in Yaoundé.
4 majors, 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, 5 sub-lieutenants were decorated with epaulets and champagne sprinkled on their shoulders at the Secretariat of State in charge of the National Gendarmerie. On behalf of the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of the National Gendarmerie, Colonel Justin Minabu Abubakar chaired the restricted ceremony in respect of the government measures against COVID-19. The laureates represented hundreds of those promoted to higher ranks by the presidential decree within the July Traditional Epaulets Awards ceremony in the Cameroonian military. I am full of joy because some of us who started from the first stage, it is not easy to get to this rank. I am grateful to the High Command who promoted me today. I will serve more with honor and loyalty.
It comes with responsibilities. The higher you go, the higher the responsibility. But I believe the confidence the head of state via my hierarchy has in me will permit me to go through what is expected of me.
The various directorates took the relay in respect of the instructions of the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betiasomo. Here at the Directorate of the General Administrative Affairs of the Secretariat of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of the National Gendarmerie, 2 sub-officers received their epaulets from their immediate hierarchy.
Well, we shall be going also to other regions for that same event in our subsequent newscast. And let's go over to the Emergency Operations Center here in Yaoundé, where Baldwin Sama is on standby with the latest information on the COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon. Hello, Baldwin. Baldwin, what is new over there at the Emergency Center?
Good evening to you, Gladys. It remains a major concern for many Cameroonians, a total stop to the spread of COVID-19 in Cameroon in general and in the education milieu in particular, given that some pupils and students are presently involved in end-of-course examinations, and the public health experts of the Emergency Operations Center in their traditional press briefing this evening have laid a lot of emphasis on the measures put in place so far by the government to limit the spread of COVID-19 in the education milieu as far as these end-of-course examinations are concerned. In short, the major objective is to see that no pupil or student is infected during these examinations. And that is what we shall be discussing with our resource person tonight, Professor Emilien Epe, who is the head of the Operational Research Unit. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening, sir.
Tell me, Prof, what measures actually have been put in place by the government to avoid the spread of COVID-19, both the primary and secondary education sectors during this end-of-course examinations?
Thank you for the question. I must say that we are just in a continuation. For 3 weeks, we've been preparing the school. We had the reopening, and we set up the measures according to what had been asked. Water, soap, running water, soap for hand washing, social distancing, the number of people in classes, about 24 per class, and the teacher not running around in the class. So we are just continuing that. Having said that, you can understand that the schools where the exams are taking place are already organized. So what we are adding is that we are going to support the children psychologically. They should be bringing their food. We are not going to entertain catering during the school and during the exam time. They are already used to that because they did that for the past 3 weeks. Next is that the examiners are going to wear gloves on top of whatever they've been wearing, meaning the masks. They are going to wear gloves all through when they're handling the papers. And handling the papers, even when they are setting the exam posting, because some exams are going to be practical. There is not going to be sharing of instruments, and the instruments are going to be disinfected while the children are being examined. So for the marking of exams, each day we plan to have the wash, meaning water, hygiene, and sanitation, treated. All the papers are going to be treated at the end of the day. It means that when you finish the day, you pile all the papers, they are all piles. They are being disinfected. And when marking, when the teachers comes after the jury, they are also going to be seated, respecting the social distancing, and the papers are going to be disinfected. So this is going to be ongoing all through the exam and all through the process. The next thing is that we don't allow any teacher who is known to be sick before he produces the negative results of COVID-19 to be in the exam setting. So if they miss one exam, if after 14 days they are free of the virus, with the certificate, they could resume. Those are the measures that have been taken into place. And the children who are sick, they are not supposed to be stigmatized or to miss their exams. They are going to be taken care of in special rooms that we call confinement or isolation for them to write their exams, because if they are not in respiratory distress, if they only have fever or they are only tired, they can have their vitamin C and have their year validated.
Thank you so much, Professor Emilienne Epé. I see you are the head of the Operational Research Unit, for being a guest on the 7:30 newscast this evening. And well, Gladys Tata, the take-home message from public health experts this evening is that pupils and students should scrupulously respect all these measures outlined by the government to ensure that nobody gets infected with COVID-19 before, during, and after all these, and of course, examinations. Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, and you too, keep safe. As we told you earlier on, our newly promoted soldiers in the North Regional Capital, Garoua, have received epaulets corresponding to their new ranks. This was during separate ceremonies that took place in strict respect measures against COVID-19. Amongst the recipients was Jude Garka, raised to the rank of colonel in a ceremony presided at by Brigadier General Aga Robinson. Wilson Mengole with the details from Garoua.
At the 3rd Combined Military Region in Garoua, 2 soldiers promoted within the ranks of the Defense Forces as Colonel and Lieutenant Colonel had their epaulets affixed by General Aga Robinson.
The challenge is over, because when you reach as full colonel, that means that you always have a long way of job.
The Garoua 301 Air Force Base witnessed the award of epaulets to a captain, 3 lieutenants, and 2 sub-lieutenants. Similar atmosphere at the 3rd Support and Command Battalion, we saw the recognition of services of 2 captains, a sub-lieutenant, warrant officer, chief corporal, and a corporal. The promoted officers have to tackle issues affecting the region, such as transborder criminality, illegal poaching, and securing the airspace.
Soldiers promoted to higher ranks in the Northwest Regional Capital, Bamenda, have been requested to step up efforts in the project to restore peace to the crisis-hit region. Kilo Valerine Sala reports that the newly promoted defense personnel were receiving their epaulets, promoting them to higher ranks.
At the 51st Command and Support Battalion, Upstation Bamenda, it is time for compensation for effort in preserving the country's territorial integrity in the crisis-hit Northwest region, and also beyond the region and beyond the country.
When the problem between Nigeria and Cameroon was in Bakassi, I was in Bakassi so many times.
Those promoted to higher ranks are reminded that promotion is not an end in itself, but a means toward greater commitment.
Is to work where they are to bring peace in our region.
The Armed Forces Day in Bamenda unfolded in two separate military settings at the 51st Command and Support Battalion and the 6th Military Region.
And on to this lead story.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
Welcome back from this advertorial. And we take you over to the West region where the gendarmerie in FOUMBAN has arrested 2 suspects alleged in trafficking human parts. The 2 suspects were arrested during an operation carried out with assistance from the last great ape organization, LAGA. Gu Henry is reporting from CRTV West in Bafoussam.
The 2 human parts traffickers were arrested in FOUMBAN during an operation carried out by the Gendarmerie Brigade and the FOUMBAN Forestry and Wildlife Control Post. The 2 26-year-old Fondikou Fakou Amidou and the 30-year-old Lonti Sinclair were in possession of human bones in 2 suitcases. Fondikou Fakou Amidou was the seller, while Lonti Sinclair was from Douala to buy the human parts to the tune of 40 million CFA francs. One of the suspected culprits traveled to Ambam in the South region to sell the bones. The arrest was as a result of investigations carried out with assistance from the last great ape organization, LAGA. This is the second time in just a month that traffickers have been arrested in FOUMBAN with human remains.
Quite scary. In Act 3 of our running series tonight, we look at digital solutions to absenteeism in public administrations. One of such is the biometric clock, which is being used in most ministries and other public institutions across the national territory to monitor the time of arrival of personnel as well as their closing time. Yoti Kaleli Songe was at some public administrations in Yaoundé this afternoon for an appraisal of the digital solutions to absenteeism as well as other parts of the country and her explanations.
No lies can be told by latecomers or absentees in ministries where the biometric fingerprint time attendance system is used.
We have a biometric system put in place. When people come to work, they put their fingerprints, and it is the same process their way out. So we usually tell their times of arrival and departure. It's usually 8 hours at work daily.
This is one of the many digital solutions to absenteeism in public administrations.
If you organize the task that each state agent has to do digitally, then what happens is at every moment you can understand what they are doing and how they are doing it. At the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, we are moving very digital in the way we work. So many files are being treated online and other things, so that can judge the presence of someone. How long are they connected? What are they doing during their connections and the rest? Those are ways of monitoring the presence of someone within the workplace.
Given the current health challenge, some administrations have adopted a new work pattern, which also explains the empty seats in some offices.
Every weekend, some of them are coming, and the next week another team come. We are working by video conference with the application which is Skype.
More can still be done.
We have tools that are available for other ministries to use and other government departments that can enable people to be productive while not being exactly at their seat.
Information and communication technologies are therefore indispensable in this era, as they do not only solve problems, but facilitate work.
A conference to seek ways of improving the production of COVID-19 kits, medications and vaccinations to fight COVID-19 in the country has taken place here in Yaoundé. Organized by the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation in partnership with the French Embassy, the meeting is geared at fostering relations between Cameroon and France, as you tell us, Alice Mbe, in the following report.
They are personnel from the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation, World Health Organization, and from the French Embassy in Cameroon. The aim is to exchange ideas on how to produce more rapid COVID test kits, medications, and vaccinations.
Identify the tracks that France and Cameroon can work on to develop the research and the response to the fight against the COVID-19. Specialists will work throughout the meeting to see what are the fields where we can strengthen the research and the collaboration between Cameroon and France.
These projects, financed by the French Embassy in Cameroon, will help researchers to ameliorate on their research capacity. It will also reinforce other research projects such as antiviral and anti-malaria tests and to better control the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, the Ministry of Research has embarked on the production of chloroquine and fabrication of anti-COVID gels. They also to exploit traditional herbs to produce medications.
Kribi in the South region is faced with a problem of urbanization due to its rapid population growth. After 100 days in office, the pioneer city mayor of Kribi, Guy Emmanuel Sabikanda, says he is determined to give the city a facelift. He adds the COVID-19 has slowed down some projects that were launched and transformed in the city, as Polycarp Ati tells us.
Just after 100 days in office, Kribi City Mayor Guy Emmanuel Sabikanda has identified poor town planning and urban disorder as crucial problems which must be tackled first as the town's population keeps growing.
We have two projects: the fight against urban disorder and the safe town. The town where you can get your water, the town with public light, the town with the security. That is our principal aim, to make the life easy in the Kribi town.
The outbreak of COVID-19 has greatly retarded most of the projects of the city mayor. Nonetheless, past that be said, they are focused on their dreams to give Kribi a facelift.
We have begun to do it in Kolbiten Market because it is the mirror of the town, and the pandemic has stopped our move. And we think that after it, we have a vision to make Kribi like touristic destination.
The city of Kribi plays a vital role in the promotion of tourism and maritime trade in the Gulf of Guinea. In addition to this, the construction of structural projects like the deep sea port of Kribi have attracted many people, thus the need to modernize the resort town.
Under the 33rd board meeting of the Investment Promotion Agency, API, has ended in Yaoundé, with members saluting the 43rd% realization rate of its activities despite the spread of the COVID-19. Presided at by the board chair, Diane Achamofo, the investment in structure placed under the General Secretariat of the Presidency works to promote economic growth in Cameroon. Kwanchua Marie Cledo of CRTV Center completes that story.
The Investments Promotion Agency has as mission to promote the brand image of Cameroon abroad, participate in the establishment and improvement of an enabling and conducive environment for investment in Cameroon. These missions, amongst others, could not be attained in the last fiscal year due to some financial setbacks.
We actually voted and expected a budget of just over 4 billion, but unfortunately we got just about 43% of that budget. Management had to make do with what actual resources were available.
During the 33rd Board of Directors meeting, with General Manager Marthe Angeline Minja as a rapporteur, it was disclosed that the agency has attracted some investors in the current year.
One of the main projects for 2019 was the Cameroon Investment Forum, which held in Douala. We also had investors fair. The institution performed its role of accompanying investors. We also grant various incentives in the course of the year.
For the agency to fully attain its objective, including that of assisting and guiding investors at all stages, the board chair dished out some recommendations.
They focus so much on the work they are doing, they've ignored marketing their results. So I think while they are working so hard, they should also let the people know what they are doing.
The meeting that held in the conference hall of the agency took place in accordance with the anti-COVID-19 measures. We can't hear him.
Some football fans in Cameroon are reacting to the Confederation of African Football CAF's decision to postpone the African Nations Championship and the African Nations Cup to January 2020 and January 2021. Daniel Ekonde voiced the thoughts of these Cameroonians and has the following details.
The overall feeling is that Cameroon still has the competitions under its belt. Moving the Cup of Nations to a year and some months even gives the country some time to host the second edition of the expanded AFCON.
CAF didn't have to bring its weight to bear on Cameroon because gradually the competition was moving from 16 teams and Cameroon was being taken aback. This time around, with the postponement of the AFCON to 2022, I think we have no reason whatsoever not to organize one of the best competitions on the continent.
The CHAN was to be staged in April, but COVID-19 caused it to be pushed to January 2021. The 6-month window, analysts say it will enable perfection in organization, but worry about the fitness and status of the intermediate lions.
At the level of Team Cameroon, will the intermediate lions be ready for the competition? Many are those top players of our league who are wanting to go out of the country for greener pastures.
Administratively, FECAFOOT acknowledges the CAF modifications and government's effort, but entrusts itself to adjust to the changes.
The FA has to be ready in terms of technical support. We have to now prepare ourselves. Now we have the dates.
Having the CHAN and AFCON in 2021 and 2022 respectively may appear far, yet the country remains steadfast to entertain the competitions.
And that Sports Report draws the curtains on this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for watching. Do join Adel Mbala at 8:30 for the news in French. I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Until then, the technical crew join me in wishing you a pleasant evening. Good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing